Hey, hey.
All right.
What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing
Right.
tonight?
Well, we're doing better now.
Yeah.
Had a little
Man.
technical difficulties there.
Yeah. I didn't know about the 9-minute rule.
Yeah.
What's it,
Right? Was it like
709? What a random thing.
right?
Right.
Is
Absolutely.
this going to be comments from just YouTube on the right, or is that all the
Oh
comments?
no,
Facebook as well.
it'll be all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Okay, I
and-
got you. I see the Facebook logo, and then all right, I see.
Yeah.
So, everybody, if you guys don't know who this is, we got Mr. Jonathan Patrick in here tonight with Brand X.
I tried to get Alex, one of my employees, to stay at the shop, and like he wasn't feeling it though.
Right.
But
Right.
what are you guys doing? What are we talking about today? Are we talking about electrical stuff, or are you guys talking about?
Yeah, no. We're gonna get educated as to how come somebody doesn't build a 3-phase amplifier to go with your 3-phase alternators. Been wondering that.
Well,
Right.
there's two. Most of our alternators have 2 3-phase stators in it, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I'm not aware of an amplifier that would function at that. No,
Right.
definitely not aware of one. Even
Hey,
the high voltage. That's the crazy thing. Like, even if you look at like pills for like CB and stuff, same thing. You would assume that would be more efficient at AC
Right.
voltage, but they all convert from AC to DC, then back to AC.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work for us.
Yeah, very strange.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company and, what you have to offer for the few people that's watching that don't know about you or your brand.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm John. I own Brand X Electrical. We build high output alternators, standard output alternators, heavy duty alternators, starters, and lithium batteries. Majority of our lithium batteries for like race car applications,
Wow.
like lightweight
Cool.
stuff.
Yeah. How long you been doing it?
Building alternators, I was like 8 years old.
It's a
So
good little while.
24 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm 32 now, whatever that math equates to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Long
Well,
time.
that's long enough to know. That's long enough to
Long
know how
enough
to
to
do
have
it.
an idea of what you're doing, yeah. And a couple of college degrees help too.
Right.
100%.
Which degree? Which
I have
college degrees?
an associate's in electronics engineering, a bachelor's in electronics engineering, and a master's in business.
Oh, cool deal. You got to have
The
that
master's in
business.
business was one of those like DeVry kind of things, so it's
Yeah.
the rest of it's a little more legitimate.
Yeah, well, at least you got a little business now. You can't do the work without being able to run the business. I guarantee you
I'll
some of
agree
that
with
stuff helped you out.
Yeah, no, it's the taxes thing was the learning thing for my first year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get their money. That's for sure.
100%. One way or another, they
That's
go
rough.
get it.
Yeah, well, they got it all right.
Hmm.
When are you guys gonna have a show in Ohio?
It's something we could definitely work out.
You know,
Ohio. Where is that? What's a big town there? Ohio.
Cleveland,
Where you at?
Columbus.
Yeah.
We're in Cleveland. That's where we're at. I mean, Singer's up here. American Bass is up here. Resilient Sounds is up here.
Hey,
Yeah,
everybody's
a
up
lot of
there.
business are up here.
I'm sure
We have
if
a
you
couple of
could,
like decent sized shows, but nothing too crazy yet. I was talking to a local track called Dragway 42 about trying to have a bigger show, but they're
Yeah.
booked up for like every time period that would make sense for us to have a show, because it's not like Slamology or Scraping the Coast, or like it pretty much have to have the show like towards like the end to middle of July to not be competing with
Right.
more shows that have been around for a long time that I definitely already go to anyway. So it wouldn't make a ton of
Right.
sense for me to spend a bunch of money to try to have a show at. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the show season's pretty booked. I mean, they have one in Ohio, kind of in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah. We feel your pain there. We was talking today trying to come up with a date for our finals, and all the dates are taken.
Yep. Yep. No, it's crazy. I mean, I feel like 3-4 years ago that wasn't the case, and now there's just more. It's getting bigger. It's definitely getting bigger.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
gonna
audio
have
is,
to.
a lot of people. You walk to like the crazy thing is the craziest thing for me at least is when I go over the place and I see like our company stickers just on random cars at like the mall and stuff. Like that's cool. That's humbling.
That is cool. Yeah.
But it does tell
Yes.
you that the community is definitely getting bigger. There's no doubt about that. That I mean, all the basehead pages keep growing every year. I mean, there's like 10 to 15,000 new people on all the basehead pages on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, like every year. So I guess that does mean it's growing. At least people aren't leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
For the most part, absolutely.
You know, I mean, I don't really know anybody that's gotten out of it yet.
If they do, they take a break for maybe a year and then they're right back.
I mean, I figure Drew's probably going to quit once this mail van just shits all over that Tahoe. But,
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm going to put in like at least 10 Drew Jones jokes throughout the time.
Yeah, they're good. They're good for for entertainment.
Yeah.
It's not like Drew can come in here and defend himself or anything like that.
Right.
Brian Lloyd, yes, we do offer trade-in alts when upgrading, and then we also offer just upgrade paths as well. Like we can upgrade the unit that you already bought from us. Sorry, I was just scrolling through the comments real quick.
Yeah, that's cool. So just so you guys know, I added the group since I was kind of being in a hurry. I did not mean to, and I just now added the page where we normally do it. So we're all jacked up tonight, but we still got 20-something people already, so we're good. Right. So there'll be some more people pop in that didn't catch it.
I forgot to share the link on the business page.
Yeah, I didn't share it very good this week either. I actually had to work till 6:30, so I struggled getting home and enough time to be able to get.
Usually Jimmy sends me a message, says, "Hey, send me the link at 6:30." Tonight it was almost 7. I hadn't heard from him. I thought, uh-oh.
I was struggling. I had to hurry up and get home and get the computer all ready. And
let me try to find it, and then I'll.
Because I worked all weekend on trying to get my truck ready, so I didn't have the computer all set up. I was hoping to use it this weekend so I could download all them programs that I need, but I didn't get it quite taken care of. I'm going to be hollering at Mr. Jonathan Patrick for a nice alternator for the truck, though. For sure.
Yeah, I got you. We talked about that already.
We've already talked about that. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let me see. Share. I got to find share to a page.
Facebook user. Thank you. I appreciate that. But honestly, I don't know who you are. It's just coming across as Facebook user. So
yeah, this is what happens, guys, if you're watching.
It's probably just you commenting on the thing saying you're awesome or something.
Right? He got his secret.
I do it all the time.
Identity.
I hype myself up. It's okay.
Secret can.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, I'm just sharing this on the business page real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Talking alternators and making fun of Drew Jones.
There's one for you, John. Look at that one. Mr. Dan Current in the house.
Right.
Oh, Dan Current? Yeah. Dan Current just ordered 2 540 amp alternators for his Armada.
Dang.
I don't know why he needs such big alternators. It ain't like it's loud.
It's gonna be.
No, it ain't.
He just spent like $10 gazillion on B2 equipment.
He's gonna get the B2 equipment in there, and he's never gonna turn it up, just like the shit that he has in there right now.
What do you mean? He's given me a demo before, and then
if he keeps his windshield in it, he has never turned it up.
He blew windshield when he first got it together. He did.
Because I'm telling you right now, I've seen him when he actually turns it
leave
up,
him alone.
And that window goes.
We're here to make fun of Drew, damn it.
Hey, Dan's my boo bear. I love Dan, trust me, but I still give him shit. He don't turn it up. We all know that. 10 windshields. I'm getting ready to be on my third one. It's still broke.
That'll happen. That happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
What did you go to Slimology?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the
yes, sir.
Mailvan windshield lasted
Yeah.
about 30 seconds.
I was parked right across from you in the Crossfire booth there.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Which one were you at? Which booth were you at?
My
Who?
booth?
You was
We
your
were at the
booth.
Brand X booth. It was
Okay, so I was
Drew and I had the shared a booth space.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Yeah,
I was
so it
all
was-
over
it was
yours
like
because he.
Baseaholic, and then right next to
Yeah.
that was Brand X. So they kind of let us
Okay.
like combine
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same space.
Well, I camped out there. Drew used one of my tents kind of behind you guys, and so
Okay.
that's where we
that was
camped.
probably where my Mailvan was. You probably saw my Mailvan then.
Yeah.
The one that said fake taxi across the side of it. Yeah.
Yes.
That was mine. Yeah.
Right. That's cool.
Yes,
Right.
sir. So what's up with the mail Jeep?
We're just in Extreme the Cabin. That's gonna be the only thing that's gonna. It's almost done. Do you know who Roth Wismar is?
Mhm.
He's got that blue, or not blue Jeep. I'm sorry, black Jeep.
Black Jeep,
with
yes, sir.
with all the blue accents on the inside.
Mhm.
That one is so the Mailvan we're doing. Probably gonna switch over to 915s instead of 6, and then probably between 3 and 6 crescendo. I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. See, that's confusing because this is Facebook user, so I don't know who that is.
Yeah, that I'm sure that comes from the group. And if you do it in a group instead of a page, that's what everybody looks like.
Okay, I
Facebook
got
page.
you. But yes,
Normally we
make an
don't do
external
it,
voltage
yeah.
regulator.
Yeah,
But
He
normally
has
we don't do
everything
it.
you could ever think of for every vehicle you could ever possibly think of. He has it or can make it.
yeah. I said we just did one for
What's up, Ronnie?
Hey, is there a sweet spot for like longevity? Like it seems like the ones that put out the most don't last as long, and I don't know if there's a solid
and
reason
I'll
for that.
openly admit that. Like a 540 amp alternator, some of the ones that we make, you don't necessarily want that on like a daily driver.
So
So
is there a sweet spot?
heat issues? Yeah, I mean all of that takes into account.
Yeah.
Like a 370 to a 270 is kind of like that good sweet spot.
Where you
you're
get
looking depending on the application too. Like if you have like a big diesel, generally you can go as big as you want and you're pretty okay. If you have like a smaller 4-cylinder, you'll start running into belt issues, pulley slip issues, stuff like that when you start going into the larger output options. Yeah, I mean the most common thing that people do is they'll get the largest alternator they can get. One of the reasons I'll take it back a little bit. One of the reasons we don't have every option that we offer on our website, and I'd rather you message us, is so the conversation that we're having right now we can have. I can make a recommendation based off of what you're running, or my wife can, or Alex can, or anybody can. Like that's the reason why I don't have like dealers just all over the country, because a lot of shops, not the shops are a bad thing, but some shops will sell you just the most expensive item, thinking that's like the better option. And I get that you make the most money that way, but sometimes that doesn't work out the best for the customers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean I'd rather our most popular items are like 250 amp to 270 amp. That's generally what I try to push people towards. You get a little more idle output that way. Lower engine RPM turn on. There's just generally the benefits outweigh the downsides. You don't get as much peak output. I'll admit that all day long, but it is more durable. You got to imagine the heat sink's the same, the pulley's the same, the bearings are the same. The only difference is the windings and the rotor coil. That's what's making it run hotter. So I mean, you can't make the heat sink any bigger.
So for those of us that really aren't very smart, the more windings and stuff, the more windings and things there are, the harder it is to turn. So the more it pulls on
the more of a magnetic field you're generating, right? So the more of a magnetic field you're generating, the more the motors actually lose, more horsepower the motors actually required to the more horsepower is required to spin it.
Yeah.
So say you have a 80 horsepower Honda Civic, like a D16 or something. You're not going to be running a 400 amp alternator. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Not
you have a 3-rib belt. A 3-rib belt's generally good to about like an 8 to 9 horsepower draw before it starts slipping or potentially snapping. Like a 400 amp alternator is around a 17 to 18 horsepower draw. So it's just never going to happen.
So now how does this work if you had two, say 250s versus one 500. So would it
But
be just as
500
much
would be
pull?
less load than two 250s.
Okay.
Because you also have to account rotating mass.
Yeah.
So if you have two rotors, it'd be like having, like in a race car, for instance. It's usually like, if I go to race car stuff, it kind of makes more sense for people. If you go to say you have a 50-pound wheel and you have four of them, go to a 30-pound wheel and you have four of them, you just saved yourself 80 pounds, right?
Right.
So you save yourself, save 30%. The reality of it is you're saving yourself 100% of rotating mass by having
gotcha.
one alternator versus two.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
What do you mean? Oh, Scott Dobing. That's pretty funny. But yeah, no,
Right.
the V16 will not do a 370. No, it will never actually generate that output because the belt will slip or snap before it gets to that part.
Dang. What's that now?
What?
What is that you said that wouldn't do that 370?
So the belt itself actually will be your failure point before.
I see.
Like a lot of people. So there's like some 7 and 8 alternator brackets out there now that run on spring tensioners, like your factory spring tensioner.
Right.
Say you have like a 18-pound spring in your factory spring tensioner. Your spring tensioner will be your failure point before you ever generate, say, you have 7 390 amp alternators. It's
just too much pull on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll never happen. Yeah, the tensioner will open up and your belt will slip. That's why, when you go to all these crazy shows, you just hear squealing left and right
every time they crank on it. Yeah,
they're running like 300-400 amp alternators without taking that into account. We're actually working on a billet manual tensioner replacement for the 5.3s, 4.3s, etc. It's probably a few months out still, but probably shouldn't even be mentioning it because people are going to ask about it now. There's a couple of companies that make, I think it's TTP or ITC or whatever it's called, ICT. They make a billet spring tensioner. Yeah, there you go. There's your billet alternator right there. We also make a billet. We're trying to make a billet tensioner that'll be actually a manual tensioner, so you can set your tension and it'll just stay there versus having the spring actually adjust.
Yeah. So has anybody done this? Or let me say, I know they have, but so if you were to take and make let's say a pulley and bolt it to the engine where the crank comes out, what goes on that pulley at the front, you think? Like what you call that?
Your crank pulley? Like
right off the front.
Harmonic balancer?
If you made something that goes on to bolts to the front of that, and in other words, and didn't use the belt and then use the chain on the alternators, I mean, would that be to kill a 4-cylinder motor the same way just because of power, or you would have a belt slip?
You have more inherent drag in a chain than you would a belt. One of the reasons why belts are used. Just to hold on one second, Brian 8 Loud Jasinski, that is on the high end. 400 degrees is close to failure. So you are running the alternator up pretty hot at that point. That's a load thing. So you have it under load, or there's enough belt slip or something that's making it that hot. It won't just get that hot on its own. You would, if it was getting
unless
that
you're
hot
in
on its own,
Mississippi at scraping the
battery, you're
coast.
charging at 19 volts.
Ooh, yeah.
Unless you're in Mississippi at scraping the coast.
Then you're just, again, you're abusing. Yeah, 390 degrees is not failure. The difference between getting it to 390 to, like, say 410 to 415, where you're actually going to start melting the bridge points around it, that is pretty significant. You're looking at, like, you're probably taking a couple hours.
Yes, he is the owner of Brand X. The owner, the mastermind, the brains behind the organ. Well, no, his wife is the brains behind it.
Yeah, I was about to say, yes. She runs the show. I just build the alternators. But
we do what we're told as husbands.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that, Billy. But
that's cool.
Yeah, to answer your question, a chain is going to be more engine drag than a belt.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why belts are used versus, like, a cog belt, for instance. It won't slip, but an alternator, when you have a magnetic force, obviously it's what it's trying to do is stall, right? So if it actually did stall and you had a cog belt, you could cause actual damage to the car. You would much rather have a belt snap or slip than have that issue.
Being the
We actually have they're called clutching pulleys or Litton's tension pulleys, where they actually have a clutch pack in them where it will slip instead of the belt slip. That's to help with belt life and stuff like that.
Wow,
the only difference is the only thing is then is you're moving your failure point to the pulley of the alternator, which is a little bit easier to change in most cases than say like a crank pulley or another thing that you'd have a failure with. But yeah, that is an option as well. We do have those.
Well, I was just trying to come up with a way that 4-cylinders could have 2,000 amps of alternator under the hood.
Yeah, I mean it'd be pretty difficult to do. I mean
another motor.
Yeah, I mean we've made we were gonna do one for JY, like this was back before I even started my own company. We wanted to do a 26 horsepower diesel motor. There's basically on a cart that would power like say 390s. That would be like a manageable thing. It would just be load based, right? So we never got to do it, but it is something that I eventually, when I have an abundance of free time, which I haven't had in a while, I want to try to get back to trying to make one of those.
Right.
Never you own a business. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it'll be fun. They said.
Yeah, free time does not exist.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like now, I have the fun.
It's expensive.
Fun things, and I don't have any time to do it. So it's just the catch-22.
When you do have time, your wife has stuff for you to do. So.
Yeah, no, I mean she's probably the most understanding person you'll ever meet in your entire life when it comes to like how much I work. For sure.
She's cool.
But she also likes cool stuff too. So she knows that if I stay working, she gets to have the cool shit.
Right.
She's waiting to pull up in that driveway in that Lamborghini.
Yeah, there you go. She's got the C8. She likes that car.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's cool. So so this is kind of something I was thinking about too. The PTO setups. How hard are they to do?
We did that on a truck. We did the original. I'm trying to remember who did it originally. We bought a kit from someone and it didn't work out so hot, but I can't remember who made it originally. We had to change a lot of stuff around to make it actually function. We ended up putting
Robert built.
Huh?
Was it the one that Robert built?
Jackie built it. Yeah. So Jackie built it on his van. His bus. I think it was on the demo bus.
Sorry, on the bus.
Yeah,
it was.
And then we changed that around to, instead of running, I think originally it had one pump motor. We changed it. The final iteration of it, we had 4 pump motors on it, and each pump motor ran 2. And we did valving to distribute the fluid to run one motor at a time. We were eventually going to make it where it was all going to be electrically controlled. Like, so we would have buttons that we could just press instead of actually having to crawl into the truck and open and close valves like it's 1946. But we ended up, if you follow the projects that I work on, like at least as far as car audio vehicles, I basically get bored of them the second they're done. Like when they're playing, I go, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to do? That's just, I think I have more fun working on the build than I do actually using it. That's doing something new and different. Like the mail van. The mail van was different enough that it's okay. This is going to be the new thing.
Yeah.
Right? But now I've got a mini truck, so I'm going to mess with that. I'm going to do a blow through in the mini truck.
Oh yeah. So I have a 89 model GMC with a 350 in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much alternator you suggest I put on that thing?
Do you have a V belt or a serpentine belt?
It's a serpentine belt.
Serpentine belt. You can go as high as you want.
Really?
You go as high as a 540 on that one. Yeah. As long as it has a serpentine. The V belt is a limitation in other cases. If you had a V belt, I would say 250 amps is the max we recommend for something you drive.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. How much? How many can I put in there?
Yeah, I mean you could run 2 to 3 alternators easily. That wouldn't be a problem at all. Once you go to 4+, that's whenever we want to try to get into this manual tensioner. That's going to be the goal, is guys that want to run 3 390s or more. That's when you want to start working into the manual tensioner, because your actual tensioner starts to become a failure point.
Right.
And a lot of brackets have like a tensioner kind of built onto the bracket, but all they're doing is maxing out the tension on the actual tensioner itself. and it doesn't make the tensioner not fail. I mean, that's people
Right.
snap them at shows pretty regularly.
Dang.
I usually get like
That's
one or two
strong.
people every 3 months that have broke a tensioner and they want an answer for it. That's one of the reasons. Obviously, I'm in it to make money, so I'm trying to make it to make money. But if it helps people, it's beneficial for everyone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's
What's
cool.
up, John? How are you, sir?
What is that in the background, Billy?
That is where is that? I just Googled a background and then I blurred it. I don't remember where that was from, be honest with you.
Oh.
So like this is just a green screen. I could kind of put anything.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah,
guys
I'm not
have
really
fancy
there.
backgrounds, and I have my window.
Yeah. Right.
Mine's
Well,
not
see-
a background. Mine's normal. I normally have a green screen
Well,
up, but
if
not tonight.
that
My
green
Christmas
screen
tree.
right there is 20 feet long and off from floor to ceiling. If it wasn't, you would see all my mess. You'd see the cutter, some of the sublimation stuff, the mail slots. It would not be good, right?
Yeah.
So I just cover it up. It's the easiest
I
way.
know what the problem is, Billy. Watch this. I didn't even think about it. Sorry to go dark on everybody for a second, but here is the problem.
Dan Current, if you can fit in the Corvette, yes, I'll let you drive it.
There was the problem with the video. It's because I have my wrong light bulb in.
It's
No,
still
that just looks
pixelated.
blurry.
Yeah.
You just look blurry more than anything.
I don't know.
Normally he's clear. That's what we was working on before.
I don't know. Maybe my internet's lagging tonight. I don't know. That's unheard of.
Yeah. He got this new computer. He had a less than good computer when we started
And that
this
worked
thing.
great.
And it didn't work very well at all. And then he got a good computer, and he's been clear ever since. This is the first night. I think he might have had an extra Miller Lite, and he picked up the wrong computer. That's what I'm thinking.
No, sir. No, sir. Absolutely not.
No.
Not tonight.
Matt Boger was trying to ask a question, but he didn't actually ask a question. He just said, I have a 4.3 with 2 every 390s. If you have a question, I mean, feel free to ask, or if you want to message on the business page, you can as well. And I can help you out with any questions you have.
I apologize. I did not see your question, or I would have put it up there.
Well, you're good.
Yeah.
I keep like randomly scrolling through trying to
Absolutely.
Cool.
help anyone out if I can.
Right.
Yeah.
We have, since we're a fairly new organization, we have a lot of newer people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of people that just they do not know. They think they know, and I'm not trying to talk bad about them. They've heard a lot of BS, so they don't know that they don't know.
No, the electrical stuff is always, it throws people for a loop because there's so much misinformation out there. It blows my mind. Like there's people that think that a 250 amp alternator can handle like 20,000 watts. And I mean, the reality of it is 250 amps is about 2,500 watts. So that's
right.
That's like a pretty
it ain't
generic.
magic.
It's just math, right? Like that's not a hard thing. You have efficiency, and no, two 390s is not too much. That is the most I would do on the 4.3 though. Sorry to cut you off again.
No, that's cool. That's what we're here for, trying to get people some education.
Yeah. But
yeah, there's nothing magic about alternators or amplifiers. You have to put it in to get it out, and it's not as efficient coming out as it is going in. And
absolutely not.
Period. End of story.
Yeah, the biggest alternators is the biggest alternators are generally like, say, like a 540. A 540 is about 60% efficient between horsepower and heat loss compared to actual output.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean it's pretty bad.
60, you say?
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean you're losing 40. You're losing 40% more output than you have coming in.
Yes,
yeah, that's quite a lot. Yeah, that's where the horsepower factor comes in. Where I try to tell people like there's some math out there that on some page somewhere that I wish I could like delete or burn. I've been out there for like 20 years on some random form. I think it's Keiko or something. And it was like, 400 amps is like 10 horsepower. And I'm like, no, not even close. Like,
Right.
it's like closer to like 30 something. And you're actually generating that output. That's about how much horsepower it is. And it's all RPM dependent, because if you have, since you do have that that rotating mass, that actual weight to the rotor, so that it does have its own kind of momentum at that point. Once you get it up to that RPM where it's actually going to make that output. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at sorry, I'm looking at some of the comments. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at it from the aspect of 10 horsepower is just, that's not even remotely accurate. That's about what a stock alternator will pull at its maximum output. Say like a 120 amp stock alternator for like your Jeep. Like that's about that 10 horsepower number.
What about a 540? What is
540 is around the 40 horsepower mark. That's a lot at its output. So like once you get to that 1800 plus RPM where it's actually making that 540 amps, it's about what it is.
But what about that new box that you came out with? Isn't that going to help with a lot of that?
Not with horsepower, no. The only thing that helps with is the biggest
RPM.
thing that we're making that for is for guys running multiple alternators that have issues with like hot cycling and stuff. Hot cycling is when, so you have 390 amp alternators that are internally regulated. One alternator comes on, one alternator comes off. One alternator comes on, one alternator comes off. You don't even see it happening, but under load when it's happening, you're like Drew Jones is like the perfect example of this. He went from holding like I think high 12s, low 13s to holding like high 13s, low 14s just by converting over to external. There was no changes whatsoever made. We went from diodes on an internal regulator to our voltage knob. He gained a little bit then. I think he gained about half a volt, and he gained about another half volt when he switched over to external. The problem is since he still has separate regulators, he's still going to have some cycling going on. The goal of the new regulator is to have one single voltage sense input, so all of the regulators are kind of forced to work in unison then.
Yeah.
It'll kind of split the load.
You're tricking the alternators to all see the same exact voltage.
Correct. Yeah. But when you can't really do that, because you're going to have, so if you have 4 regulators, no matter what, you're going to have some difference in wiring. Just say one's a foot further away. I mean, and that sounds really simple and minuscule, but when you're trying to get the absolute most out of your electrical system, you do want it to be perfect. And that's kind of what we're striving for with the new external regulator is it's knock on wood and whatever, but it's about as close to perfect as you can get for the price point anyways. There's companies like Balmar and stuff that make something that is superior, but their regulators like $3,600.
But they're not made by Jonathan and Josh.
Yeah,
$3,600.
Yeah, Balmar is about $3,600 for their programmable voltage regulator, and that's for 2 alternators. That's for yachts and stuff. So obviously those guys have money, but
I'm like
you're talking about
cars don't cost that much.
You can essentially program the alternator to be a battery charger at that point. So like say you want the alternator to stop at you want the certain load duty cycle. So you want the alternator to only make 40 amps. It can do that and actually control the voltage while it's doing it. Where the regulators now are the regulators that we use are really fast, but they're not very smart. If there's a load, say a low battery or a bad connection somewhere or a belt slip or anything like that, it doesn't see any of that as a problem. It just says, okay, here's a load. I need to give it as much output as I can until the load goes away. That's beneficial for audio in some senses, but we want to eventually make something that's smarter. It's just, I can't imagine people spending $800 to $1,000 on a voltage regulator in our market.
But I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably would if it would take care of my alternators. Because that's square one.
Get in there and hold my foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah,
good. I'm spinning it here.
Yeah.
What's that video where they're throwing their credit cards and their money at you? Let's go.
Yeah,
man, that's the club.
The amount of like development involved in something like that. I mean, it took Josh 8 months. It was like 8 months. Yeah. For between him sending me stuff and tweaking it and sending it back and him sending me more stuff. Yeah, I mean that wasn't like a lot of people think that making stuff like this just happens. and it just works. I wish. Yeah.
Right.
Like, I mean, our 15.5 volt regulators it was about a year and about $7,000 to $8,000. So like that's just development. That's just me getting samples in and it not working.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's people. So people go, why does this regulator cost more money? I have to pay myself back for that at some point.
Right.
I mean, it's not like it could be an endless pit of financial despair. But yeah, I mean, the goal is, if this regulator does well, and it is more expensive than most, if I can get it to do well, I will eventually, hopefully, come out with something that we can actually program. So say you wanted to go up to 15.5 volts when you first started to get your batteries up to that voltage, but you wanted to, say after 20 minutes, you want it to go down to 15.3. We can make it do that.
Absolutely,
We would like it to be Bluetooth controlled, where if I want to dial my voltage up, I can just press a button on my phone. Most people already play their music off their phone anyway, so just switching to another app and dialing the voltage up is great. I just financially, I can't see people spending the money on it, but I think this is a good test bed for the regulator that we're coming out with now. If people buy it and they sell in the quantities that we've been selling them so far, then yes, I would like to come out with that voltage regulator. It's just, I know how expensive this one was, so I know how expensive the next one's going to be, just based off of, you're looking at between $800 to $1,000 for 4 alts. It's just to control them, not even to buy the alternators. So yeah, I mean, it's just,
I still say I would buy that in a heartbeat.
I was going to say, but in the long run, it's going to help control the alternators, make them run
and
more
save
efficient,
them,
and actually save the longevity.
It would save them.
of the
It would
alternators.
basically be impossible to break your alternator at that point, because we would have thermal compensation. We would basically have to have sensors wired to the alternators to tell you, okay, this is what temperature the alternator is. Once it gets to a certain temperature, dial that alternator down.
That's a no-brainer. Absolutely, I'd spend the money.
Yeah, and like Andrew Showers has something similar to that, but he's doing it manually. And then Roth, the guy we were talking about before, he has something like that as well, but again, manually.
Yeah. I'm all about the battery power first, the alternator first before anything else, because the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is what you put in.
Electrical should be the first step.
It is the first. It is the first step.
Right? I mean, it should be, but
unfortunately for most people, it's the last. But it is the first
step. You can buy a Terram Space AK for like $400 now.
Right?
People are just slapping that in their stock 21 Honda.
And wonder why it fries. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that blow up that kind of stuff is it's incredible.
Yeah. There was a good question on here earlier. Somebody asked, what's the best size alternator to get for an at idle type thing?
It depends on the application. Obviously, like a 250 to 270 is generally we can fit that on just about anything.
And that puts out the best at idle?
Like around 200 amps. So a 390 makes 200 amps at idle. A 270 makes 200 amps at idle. The price points is quite a bit. That's since they make the same amount at idle and the price point is lower for the 250, 270, the heat sink's the same, diodes are the same. You're going to get more longevity out of that.
Out of the which? The which one?
The 270s.
The 270s?
270s and 250s.
Makes sense. Yeah. Less heat, right?
Yeah, you have the opportunity to generate less heat. If you're generating a ton of heat over a long period of time, it doesn't matter though. They're all about the same.
The alternator's going to stop producing when it reaches a certain temperature.
Yeah, so here's a comment. It says brand X just don't hold up. So tell us this, man. What is
our warranty rate's under 2% for the fact that we sell about 10,000 units a year? That's pretty fucking good.
Right. And would you say it's under what?
It's under 2%. It hovers between 1.9 and 2.1% every 3 months. I check it.
So I have a
spreadsheet that I've actually posted before to prove it. Every warranty that I have, regardless of the reason why it happened, I'm talking someone dropping an alternator while they were trying to install it. I count that as a warranty. It's under 2%. I mean, for someone to say something like that is just, it's not true. I mean, I wouldn't be in business if it were.
Right. So
we offer a lifetime warranty. What would happen if every alternator broke? I would be out of business.
Yeah,
Matt. Sorry, guys. Matt, at this point in time, I feel like there's a lot of comments that come through there. So if you have anything that you'd like to talk to Jonathan about, just hit him up on Brand X page. I guarantee they will be able to help you out.
Well, so Jonathan, what is what's the biggest failure? Is it heat? What
It's
causes the
always
biggest
heat. I mean, it's belt slip is the most common one.
belt slip?
Belt
And
slip
so
is the most common one.
What does that do?
After
What does
that, it
that
would
do
be
to the alternator?
Hmm?
What does belt slip do to the alternator? What does that do to it?
overheats
To
the
make it
alternator.
break.
You're talking about Indian rug burn times 10,000. You know what I mean? You're
Oh,
talking about
so like that belt actually heats up that pulley and heats up the rest of the alternator?
yes.
Yes,
Wow,
absolutely.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, well, the road that's directly attached to the rotor shaft. The rotor coil can actually
yeah.
open from that heat.
Wow.
Imagine a rotor
okay.
coil like a voice coil in a sub. When that gets really hot, what happens?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
opens
yeah.
or shorts, right?
Failure.
Right.
Yeah. So when it shorts, you have high voltage situation, and if it opens, then obviously it's just not functioning at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because if you short a voice coil, what happens to your amplifier? It breaks.
Right.
Yeah. If you open, it's okay, but you just don't have any sound, right? So it's the same kind of thing in an alternator. If you open a rotor coil, if you open a coil, period, there's no current flowing through it. There's nothing happening. If you short it, the problem is in an alternator, since it has a voltage regulator inside, that's not, again, we discussed this already, not very smart. Internal regulators by design are not very smart. They're this big. You can't make it smart if you wanted to.
Right.
In those cases, when you do have a short, what you see then is a spike. So the voltage just full fields. Then your rectifier melts down, and that's always a bad time. If your rectifier melts down, there's always a chance for knock on wood. I haven't had that happen yet, but that there is the chance for that. Is the word that no one in audio ever likes to hear, and I won't even say it. It's like Voldemort.
Yeah. Right. So do most so like when a belt slips, sometimes you can hear it squeal, but so am I gathering that there's some slippage? That's what I was supposed to ask. Yeah, so you don't even know it's happening.
It's the belt. The belt is almost rolling over the pulley, if that makes sense. Like if you've ever watched a belt slip, when it's slipping to the point where it's audible, you actually see the black dust like almost flying off of it. The easiest thing to tell if someone has belt slip is black dust on the front of the alternator. If you see any, then you have belt slip.
Oh, is this what I have seen on hoods that have been raised, and you can see where there's black kind of?
Yes,
that's belt dust.
From the
that's
belt from the
yeah. So I mean, the reality of it is if you're running multiple alternators, you're going to have some. The goal is to mitigate it as much as possible.
Yeah.
There's 8-rib conversions and stuff like that. That helps tremendously. But if say you have like a GM 5.3 and you're running 3 alts, you're going to have belt slip. The goal is to limit it as much as possible to increase the longevity of the alternators. You will break them. People running multiple alternators do break alternators more than the guy running one.
Yeah. Makes sense. So belt slip is not our friend, and it's right here every day, and we just don't even know it.
It's literally the devil. Mama says that's the devil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Here's one for you, Jonathan.
And voltage comes and goes every few seconds. That sounds like that's the belt slip. I mean, if it's coming and going, that's generally belt slip. Is in the 390s are making grinding noise or the 300s?
The 300 XXL.
Yeah.
He upgraded to the 390s. And he got the grinding noise.
Upgraded to 390s.
Like a bear.
I think he's saying that the 300 double XL has a grinding noise.
Okay, I apologize, Nathan. What is that question?
Oh, right. Right. I'm telling you, I know a lot of our guys, they're not into this. They don't know. They want to know. Yeah. They only know what they hear. And so that's why I keep asking these basic questions.
Yeah. The big issue for me is that the amount of misinformation out there, even from other brands, is like, it's pretty confusing. Like between Singer and I feel like we had a really good thing going, like where we had Mike and I would be on every post, and it's almost to the point where I think we're just burnt out, trying to say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Like we made groups trying to get people to be on the same page and stuff. But I mean, when you
what is your actual warranty though? I mean, when it comes right down to it, what is your warranty for your brand and your alternator?
We have a lifetime warranty at parts costs. It's in every quote that we give. It's in every bit of instructions that we give. Yeah, regardless of how it broke or why it broke. I don't care if you. I've actually had a person drop an alternator as they were trying to install it, and the frame broke. I fixed it for $25. I didn't say, "Oh, you're dipped. You need to buy a new unit or whatever." I'm gonna help you out. I mean, regardless of how much of a dick you are to me, I'm still gonna help you out. I mean, because I mean, I had a guy come in today. He was a super nice dude. He bought an alternator from MechMan. His son was hooking it up and wired it backwards. The guy was super honest about it. I'm like, dude, it happens. Yeah, I mean, when you bought a battery, let's say your factory car has a reverse terminal. You bought a new AGM battery from, say, Access Power or whatever. Didn't come with a reverse. You just hook it up the same way you had it. Accidents can happen. And that's just one of the things where, like, but that dude was super honest about it. And I'm like, I'm going to fix this for you for under what our warranty would have normally been. Like, I ended up rebuilding his whole alternator today for like $90. I mean, you're talking about a $400 alternator that, yeah.
Dang. Right. So how high will
it goes up to right under 17 volts for Ryan?
Now, hey, the higher the voltage you go, does that also decrease the longevity of the life of the alternator?
It depends on what batteries you're using. So, like, the higher you go to 100% SOC, and say you are state of charge, the higher you go to that level, but the lower you're getting it, you're kind of forcing the alternator to bring it back up, right? So that is charging batteries at that point. You're making the alternator be at 100% duty cycle for an extended period of time. Yeah, you're limiting the life of it.
Works it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like this question right here.
But if you were at 16.5 volts charging to 17, then it lasts forever, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
so it really doesn't really matter what the voltage is.
Generally, the goal in audio is to have at least the goal in audio for at least customers that I try to get them to is the point where they're dropping 2 volts or less. The guy's running CMAX charging at 16.2 and they're dropping to 13.1. That's not good voltage. It's not. You might as well be charging at 14.8 and dropping to 10. It's almost the same thing. Like the reality of it is, I mean, you're dropping 3 volts. That's not good. That's
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way. No matter how you're doing it, say you have 200 amp hour AGM, but you have 200 amp hour CMAX. You're charging at 14.6 with the AGM and you're dropping to 12.6. That's really good. That's around that 2 volt range that we're talking about. If say you're running CMAX and you're charging at 16.8, which a lot of people want to do, and they're dropping to 14 flat, that's actually worse than you were with the AGM.
Because it's a bigger difference.
It's a bigger difference in drop.
So
the amplifier wants to see somewhat of a regulated voltage. That's the whole point of it, right? So
that's a lot of pretty important.
I'm holding higher voltage, so my amplifier should be more stable. It's not accurate. Because you're at that 15.6 and you're dropping, or say 16.6 and you're dropping to 13.1. That's a larger swing for that amplifier to have to adjust for and accommodate for. Yeah. And it does affect more things than just your alternator. That's the biggest thing that I try to get onto people. It's like the reality of it is I don't really care if you break the alternator. It's my job to fix it. Like, and you're going to have to pay for the parts to fix it. But if you break your amplifier and stuff in the middle of it because you just didn't fully understand something,
right?
That's a bigger problem, and that's the bigger problem with the misinformation out there right now, especially with lithium.
Right.
So there's a lot of people running lithium that probably shouldn't be. That's just the best way.
So speaking of lithium, so let me ask you this: so lithium, it charges much faster than it'll take a charge faster.
Yes.
Recharge rate is faster than an AGM, let's say. So is that really hard on the alternator compared to AGM, which would be a little slower?
It just depends on that swing that we were talking about.
If the swings are the same.
Yeah. So if it's the same, it's actually better, not worse.
The lithium would be better.
Because you're giving it, say, if you have a properly sized bank and a properly sized charging system, lithium is less harmful to your alternator than AGM. The problem is once you get AGM to say in the 12s, it takes a longer time for it to get up there. And it is accepting less amperage. I'll admit that, but it's that heat over time, right? So say you're only making your 400 amp alternator charge at 200 amps, but it's taking 20 minutes to do so instead of 400 amps for 5 minutes.
So lithium's better because the alternator works a shorter amount of time.
Correct.
Yeah.
It does work harder, but it works for a shorter amount of time.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Generally, it's if the bank is sized properly, it's about a quarter as much. So it's a significant amount. It's
That's
not like a
huge,
small
yeah.
amount.
Right.
Well, I've done videos on that too. This was years ago when like JY and Limitless like first came out with batteries. Like that was God 7 years ago, something like that,
Yeah.
8 years ago. I never got to mess with the excess power ones because they were too expensive for my blood. But the JY, like once the price started to get like the $1,600 to $2,000 range, it's about how much people were spending on AGM anyway. So that's like when JY first came out with that, their little the K2s. I was gonna say KY, but that's something I got in the bedroom. That's different.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know what this is. Does anybody been following David's what is he
Give some
talking about?
examples. Is that what he's saying?
But I'm not sure of what.
What
I
about
missed
the
it.
batteries?
How do you know when you need two
Correct.
runs
I
of
said
one
that's
alt and at
deeper.
what size?
I think maybe you're just agreeing with me though.
Yeah, here we go. This is what he's.
How do you know when you need two runs of one?
There's a chart basically for that. Really,
there is. It's about 400 amps. 400 amps is about what you can get out of one run of one aught. And I did a video on that too. Yeah, we have a video on that on the Brand X page from like 2 years ago where I had it was, I'll say that brand, it was full tilt OFC, and then we had sky high OFC, and then we did about 400 amps from one run at 16 feet or less, and the voltage drop was about, I think it was 0.2 to 0.3 volts, which is like a pretty reasonable amount. Once you get to like that half volt or more under load, that's when you have to start, okay, let's add another run or look at where our ground locations are or something like that.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. Now, I haven't tried all the different brands of wire, and I will say this: we were having a problem at Pro Audio Center where the amplifiers were cutting off on more than one car, right? So they dug into it, and they tested 100-foot roll of each of the different types of wire, and there was a cheaper brand of wire than the Kicker brand, but all they had to do was to change the wire, and amps quit cutting off. So that wire on even 17 feet can make a huge difference.
Yeah, especially the other thing that you have to look at is a lot of times you'll have a break in the wire, and it's not like a visible break most of the time. Usually it's corrosion related. But what'll happen is the wire will actually start to swell a little bit and just break, and that piles resistance. And every time that happens, you get more and more resistance pile up. So then you do have that drop between the two, and you, like you're talking about, cutting off.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, the difference. But that Kicker wire was jam up compared to any of the other wire it was tested.
Yeah, I mean, Kicker wire is good. Most of them, I think, are pretty much essentially made in the same place, but they do have different levels of quality for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the wire that we have Brand X wire. We have like our own wire now. It's just really, it's sky high wire with a different logo on it. But John has a great product, and yeah, I'll stand behind that every day of the week.
What's up with the Brand X subwoofers?
Oh, the Bass X woofers. Drew and I kind of did that as more for fun, I think, than anything. And as we've both gotten a lot busier than we were at the time that we wanted to do it. So I honestly don't even really push it that much. We still sell them, but it's more of just, I think, people trying to associate themselves more with Drew's brand or my brand than necessarily being concerned about it being a Bass X subwoofer. Yeah, I mean, it is a quality product, and it's priced pretty well. It's a little bit on the higher side than I wanted to be, but you have to have room for margin and warranty and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's priced where it should be, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. There was another.
That's whoever Facebook user is.
I know, right?
I just didn't cut them off the group. I just didn't cut it off because we'd accidentally started. I didn't want to cut those people off, but they're in the base sports group is what it is.
Yeah, I'm running 14.6, dropping at 12.6, 12.7. It takes 10 to 15 seconds for volts to start coming back up. Well, when you're giving it acceleration, you're actually having it force more output to the battery, right? So that's pretty normal. I mean, it's going to take some time for voltage rebound. If I'm assuming those are AGM batteries at that point, or like a 12-volt lithium. When you're in that 12s, that's when you're touching the battery reserve. So yeah, I mean, it's going to take a minute to bring the battery back up.
And that also depends on your battery bank as well, too, though, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you've got one battery versus 12 batteries, it takes it a while for everything.
Yeah,
to
the more
build
reserve you have, the longer it's going to take. Barring any crazy wiring issues that person might have, that's pretty normal.
Well, he had, I don't remember what amps it was. I think he's gutted the vehicle now, but I'm not sure. But I think it was 618s. It was a pretty big system. I can picture the one very big amplifier in the back. So, I mean, it was a bigger system for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't remember really what the equipment was. I can see the photos of it that I took, but I don't remember.
No worries.
I don't remember all the details.
240 amp hour. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty sizable bank.
Yeah.
We're not even going to go into that, Ryan. It's not even fair.
It was Ryan. It was Ryan that asked what I thought was a pretty good question earlier, but I can't remember where it was.
Well, he wants to know this one right here, but I mean,
what's your old favorite battery?
I think this one.
Yinlong.
Yeah.
Yinlong, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Cylindrical and prismatic Yinlong are by far the most durable. Like, it's not even like a question.
That's what I have in mind.
Fail, your car doesn't burn down. That's kind of a winner, right? I mean, if you have like a C-Max failure pre-compression.
I took a C-Max out back. We shot that thing, and then after we put a hole into it, we threw it into an open bonfire.
Yeah,
never any failure.
I'm not concerned about the cell catching on fire. It's more of the compression factor. Guys using angle iron and stuff like that with compression factor causing shorts because they're using metal. That's the frightening thing. The amount of batteries that I get in even locally from guys that are building, this gets back to what I was saying before. Like, there are certain people that just should not be running lithium because most of them are local people having shops doing their installation. That's if you're not well versed enough to pay attention to your setup or even have a digital voltmeter in your car, you probably shouldn't be messing with it.
Yeah,
I ran my C-Max for 3.5 years in the nitro with no issue at all, and I put them in wood boxes just to prove to everybody that it can be done if you properly know how to maintain the batteries and use them.
That is the hard part, though. The hard part is that last part you just said.
I only
say you use Yinlong improperly, it won't swell to the point where it's popping out of the compression, because I've seen that as well. Like, I've seen it actually, the cells actually start wiggling themselves out of the, and it looks like a freaking accordion. Like,
well, let's back up. So what happens to them to make them fail? What happens?
Generally overcharging or over discharging.
And when that happens, and when that takes place, what do the cells do?
They swell up like balloons. I mean, they don't degas properly is the problem. If you have the appropriate compression, and angle iron is not that. If you have the appropriate compression, instead of the cell swelling, what it's supposed to do is vent. It has that little section on the top where it's supposed to vent. If you see the cell, the best way to build a C-Max battery, in my opinion, is in the factory case with rearranging the cells and just having one extra cell at the end. A lot of people dogged that for a while, I think mainly just so they could sell people angle iron kits, I think, or put them in wood or whatever. I mean, people did that for a long time and never had a problem. Once people started making the cases out of wood and stuff like that, and again, battery failures were still happening, but they were venting properly. They weren't swelling to the point where the bars were folded up. And that's when you say part. If the bar folds up to the point where you actually have your series connections actually touching together, that's the scary part. The rest of it's not really that scary. If it vents, if it degasses, as long as you don't initiate some kind of spark to it at the moment it happens, you won't have a fire. It's when you have an actual short to the point where you have something else that's going to catch on fire, like your wood box,
right,
or your wood compression, or your angle iron. Even the powder coat on your angle iron will burn after a certain temperature. I mean, that's
So when you're talking about the battery swelling, You mean the individual cells pushing
Correct.
out? And now
Sure.
these individual cells are, you say, I think what you're saying is they got angle iron around them.
Yes, they're
Or
doing
do
that.
they have a plastic box and then the angle iron?
No, they're not using a plastic box. They're just putting the angle iron directly.
So we got
against the cell.
cell on angle iron.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
I would
powder
never do
coating
that.
it in the effort that will be your insulator, which, and again, that does work. It's just probably not the best solution. That's just
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty opinionated statement, considering like I'm just gonna look really biased because I don't sell that. But
Right.
it's just like I don't sell Yinlong cylindrical cells. I still think that is the best DIY option. Yeah, if you're going to do DIY and you're relatively new to this, that's probably going to be your best bet. It's not going to be your least expensive bet, but it will be your
User-friendly.
safest bet. It's the
So
hardest one to screw up.
overcharging.
It's the hardest one to screw
Overcharging.
up. It's the hardest one to assemble wrong. And even if you do screw it up, the chances of you having some kind of detrimental fire versus just a stinky liquid coming out of it is pretty low.
Yeah, okay.
That's why in my opinion, Yinlong is the better.
So I'm gonna get this straight. A 500 amp alternator, we say, is going to fail at some point, and when it fails, I'm assuming it could overcharge a battery, right?
Generally, when an alternator fails, at least by design, it's supposed to just not charge anymore or charge worse.
Okay.
When you see a failure overcharging, that's generally, so we talk about the rotor coil shorting,
Right.
or a regulator shorting, a regulator full fielding.
Which is
the
not
point
very
of
common.
The new external regulator is if there is a fault, it will just trigger so it'll actually has a protection circuit in it. It's pretty rudimentary, but it's a protection circuit. It will just go into fault and not work anymore.
So this is not a very
internal
common
regulator
thing
that I'm aware of does not have that.
Yeah, okay. So not a very common thing.
We're the only ones that I know of that have that, with the exception of once you start getting to like your yacht regulators, which are in the thousands of dollars.
Okay. I was just trying to think of how if somebody was to protect against, if something happens, if the alternator fails and it overcharges, how are we not going to burn our car down?
Fuses.
But what you're telling me is, if the alternator fails, most time it's just that it's not charging, not that it's
like
charging
about
99%
of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
Yeah. Generally, you will not have an overcharge event. If you have an overcharge event, nine times out of 10, it's a regulator full fielding.
So this leads me to the question: is these guys that the batteries do swell up, they're overcharging? How or why, or is that happening?
It's,
Do you know?
The most common thing is that it's not, very few people overcharge CMAX. What they're actually doing is over discharging. So they're actually taking the cells to the point to
100%.
that lower voltage, like 3 to 4 volt drop.
Oh, yeah, you can't go too low. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and then they're forcing 400 or 500 amps down its throat for 30, 40 minutes to bring it back up.
Ooh,
That's your failure point.
That hurts. Yeah.
I mean, guys running a 90 amp hour, like AGM batteries, we would always do, say, 1,000 amp hour banks, right? 10 group 31s for 20,000 watts. Now guys are running 90 amp hour batteries for 20,000 watts. Since it is taking in so much more input, because it's not like you change your alternator setup. Most of the time, guys are still running 2 to 3 390s or 2 to 3 320s or whatever, but they're only running, say, 200 amp hour battery now versus the 5 times as much when they were running 1,000. That's more, you more have a chance of over discharging than overcharging.
Right.
So since you lost that reserve, the reserve doesn't matter as much as it used to, but it still matters in the sense that if you want to draw on it for a very extended period of time, like more than 2 minutes.
So would it be, in your opinion, smarter to have way too much battery bank
and less alternator? That's generally the better move, is go with the 250 to 270 amp alternator and more battery than you need. You just have to pay attention to how low you get the battery.
But if you've got a big bank,
say it's 30%, it's going to take 5 times as long for that 270 to get it than, say, 390s.
Yeah. So, okay. So to be bulletproof, bunch of extra battery and not as much alt.
As long as you're building the appropriate size lithium bank, yes. Like in the mail van, we have a 250 amp alternator, and that was powering like, I think, 60,000 watts of slam. So, and I didn't have an issue with voltage. Voltage was not my issue. The rest of the car falling apart was my issue. I mean, but we also had about 400 amp hour battery. That's most people don't have 400 amp hours of lithium, and when they do, they think that that's enough to run for XYZ vehicle demos. Let's say 10,000 watts. Would you use? That would be totally dependent on the car.
And the user.
The user is one thing, but I would ignore that part and just figure in the car. Say you have like a newer car, like a 2021 Honda Civic. When you bypass those, the whole car freaks out. So if you want to charge higher for that lithium option, 9 times out of 10 it's going to freak out. That's when you start looking at like LFP, like Limitless's options or JY's options, or like 5S LTO like we have, or even Down for Sound. Down for Sound has that option too. All of those are all options at that point. When you have a vehicle like that, you'd go with like a 250 amp alternator and say you'd have to go overkill on the battery. So say like a Cyber 12K would not be enough at that point. You'd want like 2 Cyber 12Ks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for a demo vehicle. You have to understand the ratings of these batteries are generally for 30-second increments. So like they, because that's kind of the rule of thumb. Not the rule of thumb. That's probably a bad word. The bar was set there at 30 seconds. That was like when JY first came out with batteries, they would rate it, say, at 800 amps, I think, for 30 seconds. And they would rate that at 11 volts, I think, with their original batteries. Now it's like our batteries, our new 12-volt battery is 12 volts at 600 amps for 30 seconds. So let's say at full charge, say 14.7. I think we did the video at 14.7 volts, and we ran 600 amps of draw on it for 30 seconds, and it dropped down to, I think, 11.9 to 12 is where it hovered. Then okay, I'm gonna ignore all these questions until I answer.
Right,
answer the one that I got. Like, so now you're saying like C-Max, you have a 90 amp hour. People say that it's good for 2,000 amps, but again, that's for 30 seconds. So that's when you start building into a bigger bank. Because now, say you go to 180 amp hour, theoretically, you should be able to pull that 2,000 amps for a minute, or 2 minutes, or 3 minutes. The more reserve you have, you're not trying to increase the amperage. You're not necessarily worried about that. You're trying to play the same amount of amperage or wattage, whatever term you want to use it as. I look at everything as amperage. Just it's easy. It's a smaller number.
You're right.
It's not that big. But So say you're pulling 200 amps for 30 seconds at 13 volts. Realistic efficiency is 2,000 amps is about. Sorry, I'm getting like a bunch of.
That's a lot of power, man.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean that's the reality. Is like 20,000 watts, right?
Yeah.
After efficiency. I mean, most amplifiers, and the thing is once you wire the amplifiers lower, so you're wiring them at quarter, your efficiency, you just throw it out the window. Whatever efficiency rating they put on it, cut it in a quarter or less.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's people don't look at the math because there's no ratings for that math, and people don't pay attention to. They just look at the clamped number, but they don't look at how much amperage it requires.
What it's costing them. They don't look at what it's costing them to make that number.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing to describe it. That's why amperage for me is easier to describe than wattage. Just because, okay, I made 20,000 watts. Okay, but this costs you this much amperage over this amount of time. It's all really basic math if you look at amperage and voltage together. It really is. Like it's at addition and subtraction. Like it's that.
Right.
Yeah. There's not even percentages involved in that. That's just addition and subtraction.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it is said for how long? Like I said before, I mean it's generally about 30 seconds. That's pretty much the rule of thumb for David Bryant. And I'm not trying to say that in a mean way, but like when the place I used to work at, when we had the 40 amp hour LTO battery, we said it was good for 5,000 watts, and we said it was good for about 500 amps for about 30 seconds. You post the video, you do all this testing and stuff. You show that it's 30 seconds, and people just think that maybe that's an indefinite thing, like it'll do it forever. That's like the C rate stuff confuses people because they think it's like a constant, and it's not actually, because you have to have input current going back into it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean the biggest misconception is guys running huge systems with one alt now, and they're playing for an extended period of time, and generally they'll have like a subwoofer failure or an amplifier failure or something during the show or shortly after, that kind of proves to the point where your electrical is outliving the rest of your equipment in most cases, especially when you go into a bigger system. Like, I mean, look at Duncan. I've never been to a show where that hasn't like blown a sub. Look at any build that I've ever had. I blow subs like it's my job. That's like, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to have our own subwoofer line was so I just had an access to like almost an infinite amount of subs. Like, waiting on recones is the worst.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never known him to have to replace an amplifier. I mean, alternator.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen a lot of subs.
A lot of subs, a lot of amps.
Yeah.
I broke all of that stuff. So is anybody at that level of like, say, 40 to 50,000 watts or more, that's pretty much where they're at. The electrical isn't necessarily the issue, because you'd never actually get to the point where it becomes an issue because something else already broke. That's yeah. I mean, now that people are using like voice coil temperature sensors and stuff like that, they know, okay, my voice coils are way too hot, I should stop. Then you have Duncan who just goes further. It just makes it more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't haul those recons up there for nothing, right?
Yeah, for sure. You got to be prepared for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Huh. Well, that's cool. I got some good education. Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
You know, it was I think I'm about out of breath.
Right, but that's okay. Yeah, that's what we like doing.
Yeah. To answer Justin Gunnarson's question, the new internal 15.5 volt regulator is just the exact same thing as like a traditional IN 6003, or that's just the easiest. That's like a transpo part number, but it's the easiest number for someone to look up. It's just set at a higher voltage. The self-exciting version that we have, instead of using an AC signal to turn on, it actually has an internal diode, and a cap that will turn the regulator on. That way you have less spiking issues with our new 15.5 self-excite regulator, mostly with lithium, than you used to with traditional self-exciting regulators back in the day.
Amazing.
So, what do you think is the future of
like 12 volt audio in general, or just audio in general?
Alternators.
Okay, alternators are in the next.
I mean, do you think we're going to reach a 60-80 volt systems? I mean, y'all going to build alternators for that?
The new thing, obviously, if cars are going to continue to trend towards electric, alternators won't be a thing anymore.
Won't be a thing, yeah.
Yeah, I have prototypes for it. I haven't actually sold one yet, just because I'm waiting for someone to break one first before I actually like release it. But so Tesla is the one that I've actually made one for. It has an operating voltage. What it is it's just a DC converter. So all it's doing is stepping down the DC voltage from, say, your 400 or 500 volt bank, and that's just a general number. The operating voltage of my prototype so far that I've made is 100 to 200 volts. I saw a massive limitation in that because a lot of Teslas are much higher than that. 200 to 400 volts and 300 to 500 volts. The highest one I've made so far is 500 volts. I'm still working out trying to make this a more compact thing, because right now it's about the size of like a traditional AK amplifier for like a Korean AK. So it's a pretty big thing. And so your factory setups are generally like between 50 and 60 amps in like a Tesla or your Honda Element hybrid, whatever you have.
Mm-hmm.
They're really low 12 volt DC output. I don't see companies making amplifiers in higher voltage reliably. So I think that the 12 volt side is still going to be a thing. We just need to figure out a way to get that higher voltage battery voltage down, and it's just be in a more compact size than what I've made on what, I mean, it's essentially a breadboard.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like that's the best way to describe it in like a way that I think people might understand is that higher voltage stepping it down to a lower voltage is probably going to be the most reliable way for other companies to still be able to make money, like your amplifier companies. They're not going to re-engineer the wheel, I don't think, as quickly as these cars are coming out. So if I can keep up with the electrical aspect of it, I think that'll also help the burden of what they're working with as well. I'm not aware of any other company actually working on that, and I wish I did, because I would like ask them, like, let's work together or something. Because my brain's not quite that big. It's something that's going to take me at least a couple more years in development before I can actually like say I for sure have this product nailed down.
Right. So I'm not sure, and I should know this. I can't believe that I don't, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know it. So to step the voltage down, how inefficient is that?
Just about as inefficient as an alternator.
Oh wow!
Like, the higher amperage you go, so we're at like 70% efficiency now. We'd like to get closer to like 80 to 90, but I mean it's something that I'm working with suppliers on, and obviously these suppliers are in Asia, so COVID is a little bit more prevalent over there, just because they can't actually. And this is a small project. I don't have a ton of money to devote to something like this. I mean, I'm still a small business. I have 3 people that work for me. Like, we're not this massive company. We're big on social media and stuff. We're getting into the race car market. We're getting into more of these aftermarket things. But I mean, the reality of it is we are a small company. I am not Elon Musk. I do not have a team of engineers to like throw at something. I come up with ideas. I try to spec certain products out, and they either work or they don't. And when they don't work, I have to try again and throw that whole project away and maybe modify it and change it up again and try again. Just about every time I take a whack at it, it's between $2,000 and $3,000. So it's, you know what I mean? It's kind of something that I take a poke at like every quarter and see how much better I've gotten it to make to the next prototype. That's something that I don't.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I can't. It's hard for me to trust someone else to come in, at least in the States, to make something like this, because I know how easy it is to get out of contracts like that say like NDA and stuff like that. I mean, if I did something, and I'm not on Musk level yet, but Josh, this is something that I do need to talk to you about at some point, but when I have more money. I mean, what you're essentially doing is you're just making an amplifier, but you're cutting it in half, kind of, to make that step down happen. You're just working backwards, if that makes any sense.
Right.
That's like a really dumbed down version of what's really happening, but that's the easiest way that I can explain it without like pulling up some PowerPoints for you.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. I just I couldn't think if that generated heat. I couldn't remember how that generated heat. I get that it does, because it's like going through a resistor.
It's going to generate heat, especially when you're doing any kind of coil, right? Any kind of coil is going to generate some kind of heat, and that's all that it is. It's just coils and sets.
Yeah,
that's the basic understanding of how it works. The sub and amp setup in the mail van is going to be 9 base X15s on the start 3 Crescendo 17Ks. Wired at 1 ohm in case Shane Ekstrom's watching. Wink. Trying to keep that warranty.
Right. Keep patented weak.
Yeah. Right.
Gunderson, that's something that we've looked into, but it would be different for every vehicle. I'm trying to make something a little bit more universal. Like, if I could make something that's just going to go to your basic input, then it's going to be as simple as what everyone's always done, is just hooked a positive and negative up to something. That would be an easier solution.
Absolutely.
Than say make a different bracket kit for every Tesla and a different bracket kit for every Honda that's going to be electric and GM that's going to be electric. I mean, most of them are going to have different motors, I would assume. Obviously, none of this has happened yet. So one of the reasons why I haven't just thrown a ton of money at it yet is because once more vehicles start coming out, it'll start making more sense for me to do that. But right now, I mean, you pretty much have like Teslas and like Porsches and and that's about it. So
Yeah.
it's at least popular, like to the point where people are going to spend money on like a full size system. Like even in the SQ game, I mean, if you're only throwing say 50 amps at it, like the Model 3s have, that's how much the factory step down is. It's 50 amps of 12 volt output, and that's at 12 volts, not at 14 volts like it charges at. So the goal of ours is to have the one that I've made so far is 100 amps at 14.4 to 15.5 volts. So you'd be able to put your C-Max battery in your Tesla, which would be a really weird thing to do. But if you wanted to do it,
Right.
you could. You could take your Ford junkyard battery and put it in your Tesla car. Yeah, that would be
Right.
an option. Yeah, but
Dang. Yeah, I would just think there's a step down apparatus coming to be able to hook right to that battery, but I don't know.
what's exactly what I'm working on. And again, I'm not aware of another company doing it at the level that I want to do it at. There's a lot of companies making like 40 to 50 amp ones. That's not super beneficial when you're talking about trying to pull thousands. The goal is the end goal would be to make one around the 250 amp mark.
Absolutely.
But also still not annihilate the mileage that you would get out of your car, because I mean, once that efficiency gets in the way,
you'd hate to be jamming and can't go but 5 miles.
Or that you can't go over certain amperage requirements because the BMS in a lot of cars will just shut the car off. So, or like Tesla's crazy smart. Tesla system is intense. If I hook up to a Tesla battery and pull a certain amount of current that it doesn't expect to happen, it'll just
shut down.
It doesn't shut the car down, but it will let you know, like in every light imaginable. It's not really lights because it's all one big display, but they're lights and they're flashing at you. They do a whole bunch of stuff. I have a video that I'll probably post at some point of the one that we did when I tried to put 2 of the units together, and it just made the car do all sorts of weird things. Yeah, once the amperage pull goes greater than what the car's expecting by a certain percentage, I'm assuming it's a percentage. Obviously, Tesla has everything locked down. You can't tell what the car is actually seeing or what it wants to see, but I would assume that it would be like a load based, like a load percentage based thing. So if it's expecting a certain amperage at a certain voltage, what happens is once it goes over that amperage level or percentage level or whatever it's expecting, that's when the car just kind of trips out on you. It almost acts like a battery's dead, because it'll say, okay, it almost acts like one of the bricks in the car is dead. Because it'll basically tell you, it'll go from like 400 miles of range to like 50 miles of range. And it'll do that for a certain amount of time. And then once you unhook all of that and just kind of let it chill for a minute, it'll kind of go back to normal.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with those yet.
I don't know anyone that has. I mean, I have one customer that keeps letting me like fuck with his car.
Right.
I haven't broke it yet. But yeah, he seems to be pretty chill about it if I do, though. So yeah, he's got more money than I do, so he's been pretty chill about it. I've been trying to find a broken Tesla to buy to fix up and like to have this be like a real project, but they're still in like the $30,000 to $40,000 range for me to buy a broken one. So it's just financially, it would not make sense for me.
That would be kind of stupid.
Yeah, it would not make sense. Then my engineering costs just went up a whole car, right? So, it's okay. Now my project that I'm trying to sell for like $800 to $1,000 a piece just went up like a lot.
Yeah, a lot more. Right.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, they're high, man. They're high. Absolutely. They're fast, but they're high.
Yes, Gunderson, you will pull from the mileage of the car, correct?
Absolutely.
So that's the same as running multiple alternators at full tilt. You affect your gas mileage. What kind of power? Josh, you're smarter than I am. You can do that math.
Right.
Yeah. But if you're talking about like in wattage of 12 volt, I couldn't tell you the answer because the car shuts down before we reach that point. Like we got to 200 amps and the car kind of freaked out.
200 amps.
200 amps is not a lot.
No, not for us.
Nope.
But I guess for the car. But you would think when you nail that accelerator, you would think, because there's 4 motors, you would think that's 200 amps. If you
But
ever felt,
I think that's
you ever
the
felt
point,
that
though.
acceleration,
But
that's
the car itself is expecting that, right? Every module in
Yeah.
that car is all communicating each other through CAN bus.
right.
So every part of that is expecting that. The goal is the part that I need to try to figure out is what signal I actually need to change to say, okay, the car is expecting that amperage. I know that the car can
Right.
handle that.
Right.
That's not the
And
point. Yeah.
nothing tells it to expect it from the stereo.
Yeah.
That's
And
what you're saying.
and we're talking about 200 amps of output as well, not 200 amps of pull from the battery. It's 200 amps of that 12-volt output.
Right.
The actual amperage pull from the battery is much less because it's a much higher voltage, though.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Our stealth class is our smallest class, man. We go by cone and port area, so it's like under 200 inches. So it's like a 10 with a port, right, or
Yeah.
a 15 with no port. So yeah, this is a true statement. When those come out, this is small class will be the bomb.
I mean, honestly, like a Model X would. I mean, when in 10 years, when those cars are older and people have them paid off, and you get a Model X for 20 grand, people will. I promise you, someone's going to B-pillar it. It's just a matter of time.
It's going to happen.
Ever thought people would be. I mean, remember in 2014 when the new Escalades came out, everyone's like, no one's ever going to do that. And now, like, Contiel Taylor has a no wall and she beats the crap out of that thing.
Right.
I mean, there are people doing horrible things to really nice cars, and they will continue to do so just because it's something to do.
Right. They do beat the dog out of them.
Yeah.
I've got an old truck, but it's kind of new, and I really dread putting those subs and just tearing it up. I've got it braced up as good as I think I'm going to, but oh my god!
Pull out the welder, man. Start welding some shit.
No, it's just a nice truck. Even though it's old, it's nice. You know, it's only got 20, about 23,000 miles on it. Maybe it's an '89 model with 20. Still got the factory windshield in.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
It ain't been loud then.
Yeah, we blew the windshield in the mail van and then pretty much went straight to plexi. That was the.
I did it. I got it to 61 and change. 61.89, I think, is the loudest I got it.
Yeah. Josh, go ahead and shoot him a text.
Right. Let him know. I'm sure he's probably on your database there. You can talk to him.
Right. Who? Me? Maybe Josh.
No, Josh.
Yeah.
Josh with mine.
In some super smart engineer person's database.
Right?
Yes.
Well, cool. Hey, so does anybody out there in the computer land have any more questions to ask while we got the man sitting here? Now or never.
It was pretty much a Josh and Justin show for a minute there.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, Ryan Linneman, 1 ohm. Wink. If you see Shane Ekstrom, that is all that will be wired at is 1 ohm.
I tore mine up this past weekend. I don't know who that is, but no, I didn't tear my vehicle up. Put a lot of nice kicker in my vehicle this weekend, but no tearing up.
All right. Oh, I thought he was talking about the other vehicle.
No, I didn't have the other vehicle out this weekend. It's been almost a month since I've uncovered it.
So listen, let me tell you, I went up to South Carolina, and man, we had an awesome spot. Billy Staples has got this big field that we were able to get in, just be as loud as we want to have. I would say we had no trouble. The police came, but we were all finished, like that night. And so Chris Lee came, and we metered his van. I just did it while he was demoing from about 100 feet away. He did a 30 plus, right?
I have not heard Chris Lee's van
it's
like last
loud.
year.
It's loud.
It's ridiculous.
He did.
A couple people told me that it's like chest caving levels.
Yeah, man. So I sat in it at the Sundown show, but I didn't sit in it the other day. But I will tell you this: if you go to a bigger show, it's loud there. Even if you think it's not loud, it's loud. I don't mean his van; I mean the overall noise. But when we were all together in that field, when he played that thing from 100 feet away, man, it was loud. I mean, it was mega loud. but yeah, that pressure's got to go somewhere, and his cabin is steel, so it's going in your body.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Have you been
Yeah.
in that what is it, the Russian wind machine or whatever it is?
Yes,
That
I've
thing.
been in.
Yeah.
I've been in.
So I got into that thing too, and it was very windy and very cool, but it didn't hurt. But now
You
they
were-
was
you
playing
were
at
flying
like
it
15
recently.
hertz.
He didn't
No.
shut
Well,
the door.
yeah, no, the door wasn't shut. It
I
was
was say
just
he
a
shut the door
friendly
on me
demo.
and like bolted me in. Never again. Hard pass.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
wait a minute. We're talking about two different ones. Is this the pickup or the little avatar thing?
You're
The
talking about the
pickup.
Avatar thing right now.
Yeah, I'm
not
talking about that. You're
Yeah,
talking about
that
that
thing's
other
not
thing.
loud. That thing's just super windy. Which is
Yeah,
cool.
I watched a friend, David Bryan, as a matter of fact. He got in that thing. They shut the door, and immediately when he hit it, sucked the hat off his head, and he's like, "I'm out."
Yeah. No, it was. I think Roth. I think Roth actually almost blacked out in it. Just because they were doing something where like I think it was going to give him like $50 or something if he lasted 30 seconds, whatever the thing was at Slam, and Roth was like, "Fuck it."
Right. Yeah, I would be there too, man.
You saw his eyes just go black. Like,
Yeah.
That thing is
Yeah, I'm out.
nasty.
I tell everybody
Yeah.
over about a high 60s, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want none.
yeah.
I
I
don't
think like 67, 68 is about where
That's
where
it.
I'm
That's
at
the
with
most
it.
I
Like,
want.
that'll-
Right. Yeah.
That's enough for me.
Whatever Duncan's van is, I don't want no more. Almost what his truck is, I don't want no more.
See, I've been trying to get Duncan to sell me that truck for like 4 years. Like,
Right.
since I met him. I'm like, just sell me
Yeah.
this thing. This thing's too nice.
Yeah.
Keep beating it up.
Yeah, it is. It's
And then he
nice.
makes it nicer, and then he breaks it more, and then he makes it nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duncan. But I mean, I guess when you own like 19 Dunkin' Donuts, it doesn't matter at that point. You just-
When you got Dunkin' dollars.
Yeah,
Right.
we got Dunkin' dollars. It don't matter anymore.
Yeah. But so anyway, yeah, we had a pretty good show up there. It's the first time we had been to South Carolina. And so Chris showed up. Jerry Jaco had his vehicle there, which I didn't get to get in, which I kind of regret, but I did get some video of him giving some demos to other people. But it was pretty fun. It was a pretty fun time, man. I was excited to be there.
Where was this at?
This was in Anner, South Carolina. It's just out from Florence,
Oh, the
South
Carolina.
Carolina.
That's where Chris is about in the Carolinas area.
Okay.
I thought you were saying
yeah.
like Chris like left the Carolinas. I was like, and I wasn't invited.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but right. But he came and it was exciting. He kept the crowd entertained. But he did. All right, so we have a crowd loud class. It's 6 feet away. He did it at 22 hertz, and I think he did dang, I wish I could pull it up right quick, but it was like a 160 something, 6 feet out the window. At 22 hertz. Most people that do that class, it's like 50, 60 hertz, you know.
Yeah. And that was Chris Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did like 3 classes with us. I was kind of excited about it.
It was 6 feet out of the car, and it was a 60 at 20
Hold
something.
on. I almost have it. Just in case I'm wrong. I see a lot of numbers, but so crowd loud. I'm sorry. 142, 6 feet out at 22 hertz.
Okay, I was about to say,
almost a
160
143.
something, 6 feet out. I was like, you're dead.
Yeah, right.
That's like breathing for you at that
Yeah,
point.
and he did get a 74 and a half in the regular Burt kind of deal. That's freaking loud, man.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been anything quite that intense.
I don't ever
know what that Russian wind machine does, but I don't think that he wasn't burping. He's playing music. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that loud. It's enough where you don't want to be in it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm coming down to Florida in a couple of days, Brian, and I'm gonna get that demo. But I also need but I also need a photo of that van from one of the corners without somebody standing in it and doors open or whatever. I was gonna do some artwork with it with his van, and because he's got a cool van. Have you ever seen his? You know him?
Who?
Brian Jasinski.
Yeah.
He's down in the Daytona area, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, he's got a loud van. It's a mid-60s van, Deathbot stuff. But anyway, it's a cool bill.
So
It's
that's fun
loud.
stuff. I haven't messed with a ton of it, but I mean, it's got to be good. Everybody running it
Right.
seems to be having a pretty good time with it.
It is. I ran it for
Yeah.
4 years, 5 years. Sorry,
What are you running now?
Crossfire.
Crossfire. Oh, big money now.
Right.
I had the 16Ks back in the day. That was when I was, yeah.
I'll never go over an 8K. I think anything over that, in my opinion, the boards are going to fail. It's going to fry.
Well, I mean,
With
you're
8Ks
talking
and
about
below,
2
you can
amps.
run
That's
them
basically
forever.
1 amp. It costs twice as much to fix because it's twice as much amp. That's just how it
Well,
works.
I mean,
Right.
well, like my 8K that I had I've beat the shit out of it, and
Yeah.
I've had 0 issues. My Deathbound 7500s that I had, I actually made a mistake and hooked the power wire up to the ground because they have a terminal that's flip flopped.
Yeah.
I actually did that so much that it popped the fuse up front. Went back there, rewired it, put it in correctly, and it fired back up and it ran 4.5 years later with no
Yeah.
issue. And I wired them to 0.33. I mean, they were wired down real low for a while.
Well,
But I don't know. My personal opinion is anything over an 8K, you're asking for problems.
My personal opinion is anything more than 5 amps and it looks like shit in the car. So I'm gonna keep running the big amps and just have less wires and have it look a little cleaner. Cost me a little more money to fix it. Yeah, so be
I
it.
got
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
subs, but 4 sub amps and 4 mid amps.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
mostly referring to bass amps, like with the exception of maybe with the strong exception of like Duncan's truck, but he has a whole bed to put it in. Where
Right.
yeah, like if he
Yeah.
like his van, like the van with the amps just stacked like that, I don't like the way that looks. Like it's just
Well, he doesn't have
it's
that
not
no more.
appealing to the eye. I know that's probably not like the most appropriate way to be looking at it, but like for durability and like aspects of anything. But yeah, I would rather have less of something, so it just looks more impressive because you just have this big. I don't know. For me, it's all about the facade of me being loud. How's that?
Right.
Let's convince people that I'm loud without them ever getting in the car. That's the
Right.
winner right there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, disagree. I mean, it might look great, like if you have like a flat wall or something, you have tons of space. But if you have amps just like stacked on top of each other, in my personal opinion, that doesn't look very good. Like, and again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and no point in time am I saying that I'm right or wrong. But cooling those amplifiers and everything like that is just 10 times harder when you have a bunch of heat just piled on top of each other. Like, at no point in time is that ever a good idea, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Actually, that part's fact, but the looks part is definitely just my opinion.
Right. Yeah. The only reason I don't prefer the much larger amplifiers is because it's more current, right? Which is more heat, which means more failure.
Yep.
Simple as that.
I've just come to terms with that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I've come to terms with the breaking of stuff. That's why I'm friends with Shane Extra. I just send him the amps. He sends them back to me. He sends me a bill. I just don't pay it. It's the easiest thing in the world. I'm kidding. That's a huge joke.
Now, what amps do you prefer? Which ones do you run?
I've ran just about everything, and I broke everything. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. So you don't really care?
No, it doesn't bother me. Subs don't really bother me either. I mean, it's like, I've done 60s on Resilient Sounds, and I've done 60s on like FI.
Right.
Like it doesn't. You know what I mean?
I told you I did a 61.89. I think that's what Kicker L7s.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the enclosure is substantially more important than the equipment, with the strong exception of like things like Boss and stuff. Like where something's just going to actually fall apart. Like you can't run a 2-inch voice coil or something.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there are exceptions, but yeah, I mean,
I ran 2.75 voice coils and did a 57.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more referencing.
I did a 55 with P3s.
With what?
With P3s. With Rockford Fosgate P3s.
Yeah.
I did a 55 or a 57 with them. Granted,
Yeah.
I'd burn them probably just by doing
I was supposed to
that.
say,
but I
yeah.
still did that number.
Yeah, that's more along those lines. In my opinion, like a 3-inch voice coil sub with decent soft parts it's gonna be fine. Like at least I don't know.
I think 3 inches is the sweet spot. I had this
break
conversation.
the stuff about no matter what it is, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean it's like I've run 4-inch coil subs. I've run like I had the Sundown Team Neo 24s. We had 6 of those in a truck. Broke those just as easy as I'd break, and the same amount of power as I'd break 18s with 3-inch voice coil. So it doesn't. At some point, when you're clipping the shit out of it, it don't matter.
Right, it's cooking.
It's gonna break.
It's cooking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what amplifier do you prefer? I'm assuming you were leading into that.
Oh no, I wasn't. But I'm a kicker guy. I always have been. But since kicker doesn't really play the SPO game right now, I think
Get yourself some war horses.
If I were to pick, I do plan to. But if I were to pick an amplifier right now, I think Crossfire would be my go-to, or either Sundown. So I have the luxury of sitting in front of a table where a lot of competitors come by. And I would certainly not name these brands, but I can tell you this: there's a couple of them brands. When they come rolling up, I'm like, man, I hope they meet her before they demo, because if they demo, they're not gonna make it to the, you know. But we all know that that's user error on any of those speakers. We're not doing what they're supposed to, you know.
No, I don't know anybody that's giving it.
So I'm not
2,000 watt sub. Nobody's giving it 2,000 watts.
Right. I'm not bashing any of the brands. I just.
No,
but
absolutely.
But there are some brands that it's like, oh my God, please come to the line before you demo, right? Or else they won't make it.
I mean, what's crazy is the most reliable sub that I've had. I've never actually gone through an entire show and not blown a sub. With the exception, the most recent build that I have with our subs doesn't really count because I blew the windshield so soon that I can't really count that one. But like, so Resilient Sounds Platinum, it's like a couple $100 sub. It's not a very expensive or really well engineered. It's not even engineered sub. It's just a sub. Like, I did not break those over an entire show running almost double RMS to them. But that was also the first time I probably ever played a system to the point where I wasn't clipping too. Like I actually did pay attention to it. I mean, the reality of it is I don't care what it is. If you clip it, it's going to break. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter what it is. When you send it to that point,
this is a good idea. So I have another question for you, and it's not audio related really, but so tell me this. So, man, how do you market? Like, so as we were talking about this, those Resilient Sounds, I saw lots of those when I was in South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
But there are none here where I am in Mississippi.
Yeah.
So obviously that company isn't really marketing Mississippi. They got nothing here, right? So
you have to have
what do
a
you
distributor
do?
there, right? I mean,
I
they're
don't know.
In Ohio, they're like in Menor. They're about an hour away from me.
Yeah. So okay. So they operate with distributors. Maybe they don't have one here. Maybe that's the case. So what do you do? How do you try to be nationwide? How do you do it?
Distributors. I mean, with the outside of social media. I mean, we have a distributor in Panama. We have a distributor in Sweden. We have a distributor in Brazil. We have distributors everywhere. I mean, it's our biggest is obviously Sky High Car Audio, and he has his own network of dealers. That was the easiest one for me.
Okay. And
Resilient Sounds is also under that Sky High umbrella. Like they have those options. So
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I was just curious. The easiest on the business end.
I've never really spent money on advertising, so I couldn't tell you where to start with
some advertising for you.
But I mean, when I got into Mississippi, that was mostly Drew and Duncan. Like in your guys' area, that like kind of mid-south area, it was all pretty much Drew and Duncan. And then like out west, Kyle Ernie, in California. The Carolinas, like Bobby Wright, Justin Gunderson, those guys. Florida, there's so many people in Florida. I don't want to like name people and like forget. But like I mean, Tim Johnson, was a big one for me in Florida. He passed recently. He passed like I think last year or so. But I mean that was probably a huge one for me in Florida.
Yeah.
The biggest one is one of my best friends, Roth Wismar. That's when we first started a few years ago. My now employee Alex, he was one of the first people that bought Alternator from us, and his buddy Roth came up with him, and that's like how I met Roth. And I kind of like rode his back, like he got a world championship with our product, like his first year running it and stuff like that, and that springboarded us quite a bit. And then you get into the audio teams, you get a relationship with the audio teams. That's like TDH. I have a great relationship with those guys. T Nearly Hurts. THF, Lorenzo and Mike, great guys. Colin Buckeye with Wolfram, great dude. Had a good relationship with him. I mean, it's a good way is to not be a dick to people, and that helps. So
I said that was probably my last question, but I have another one. So what we do is on our score sheet, we have a place for what alternator brand you have, what stereo brand, blah, 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 a whole bunch of stuff, right? What store you like. So if they're a member, right, every time they get points, if they have brand X down, you get points, right? Okay. So if there was ever a time that I could call you and I said, hey, man, this guy, he's wanting to run your product. He's wanting a sponsorship. He's gone to this many shows. He's placed this. How strong will that be for you to decide whether or not to sponsor that guy or not?
Generally, if it's so, like a lot of team discounts are generally like in the percentage based. I'll tell you two people that I've given product to, and that's Drew and Duncan. And that's not necessarily because they push the product as much as just because I consider them friends. And they've helped me with my own shit before. Like, so no one will ever get a product from me for free.
I'm not talking about the amount of discount.
The 10 to 15% range is about the most. That's what I would call a sponsorship, because that's generally.
But you don't give that to everybody.
That's a massive chunk of my margin.
So what I'm asking is, how valuable is it for me to be collecting this data to you?
If you have the amount of number of shows that they've been to across the country, that's pretty valuable. Because a lot of people, the biggest turnoff for me is if some random person messages me for the first time ever and they say, I plan on going to this many shows. I'm going to go to this many shows. Right. Like, and you ask them how many shows they've been to currently. Well, this is my first big build. You're not gonna get any kind of handouts there.
You gotta be doing it. And then say, hey, I'm doing this, not I'm going to do
like
this.
Like Duncan had been going to shows for forever. Drew has been in this game.
Plus, if you guys are friends, then
and I've known them for years. So it's just like, I mean, and like Roth was a good friend of mine, and he paid full retail for product. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
right.
Yeah, I mean, and we run sales all the time for competitors. It's just, if it's information that you have, but you would almost be like, I'd have to contact you no matter what.
I was just curious at how valuable what I am doing would be to
somebody
like you.
When it comes to the right person, it's very valuable, because at least it gives me an idea of if someone's bullshitting me or not. But I'd almost feel bad harassing you to find that information out, you know?
Well, there are other organizations too, and I don't know if they keep up with it, but we do. And so, but that's one of the selling points I sell our membership as. I'm like, hey, you ever need a sponsorship? If you're I can call and say, hey, this guy's been to 26 shows over the last 2 years, and tell you make your own decision. But
no, I mean, something like that I would take account into that, and someone would get a discount for something like that.
That's what I would.
They'd have to be a positive member in the community, obviously, not going to shows and just talking shit. Like, that's not exactly. I do enough shit talking to myself. I don't need any help. Like, I want positive people, like Dan Current. Dan Current's like a super positive dude in audio.
Right. He's
like,
fun.
Super positive. He's funny. He's got the right mentality about stuff. Like, if shit breaks, shit breaks. That's just how the world works.
It's right.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not going to break sitting on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. No, I
Right.
mean that's the reality of it is that's the kind of people that I look for. So if you ever did have someone who had like a positive mentality and they were a
Yeah.
positive, if they're positive for your organization, then it's probably positive for my business. That's
Right.
a solid way to look at it. So that
Yeah,
information is valuable, yes, for sure.
Yeah, I thought it would be better than nothing, and I've spent a lot of time keeping up with it. So I was like, I hope I'm doing this for nothing. But at some point, when we have our finals, whoever has, like, say your brand of alternators, if the most people have your brand listed down, then you will get a small award from us, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and that way you will know, hey man, I got some people in this base wars organization. Maybe I should look at them, right? Or when these guys say, hey man, I'd like to try and get a sponsorship, I'd be like, dude, you got to go to more than one show. But we have a lot of shows, so if I got somebody that's sitting here with
popping
26,
up like more and more and more, like that's
we're working hard, man. We're working hard. We're just grinding.
Absolutely.
But so as we have somebody that's got 20 shows in a year. And that's just our shows, and not even counting everybody else's shows. They're doing it. You know they were doing it.
No, and that person would be a worthwhile
candidate anyway.
Into something like that. Yes,
absolutely, absolutely, for sure.
Well, all righty, sir. Well, we've kept everybody for about 2 hours now, man. That's and we're not. Yeah, and we're not sitting quiet. That's not normal. I appreciate it.
I can talk. You can ask Jim. I can talk your ear off.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
For 45 minutes the other day, and you called to ask me for a quote for something. I will.
Right.
That's why when people call me, I try not to pick up because I won't get anything done.
Don't get your work done, right?
I love this shit so much.
Like I like
leave
me alone. No.
For an hour. Like it's just texting, I can kind of cut the bullshit on my own end a little bit, I can kind of just fire away at 30, 40 people at a time. That's not so bad.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I think we got a lot of good information out there to help people not mess up their stuff and to give them a little more education to make a better decision on some things that you hear the stuff, but it just ain't right.
Yep.
And so now they got it from the horse's mouth, somebody that knows.
We definitely appreciate it for sure, and I'd like to maybe
appreciate you guys
have
having
you back on again.
Me on, sorry. I was planning on having Alex here, but he quit.
Right.
I'm out of here at 6.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, it's been fun anyway. It's been awesome. So I'm glad we had it the way we had it.
Yes, Preston, that was a GM alternator.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. It belongs to Jeremy Mott. Sorry.
Right. Do you have Jeremy's vehicle?
No. I've had this alternator in my basement for almost a year and a half, though.
Yeah.
Hey.
Jeremy will eventually stop traveling all over the country doing God knows what to finish a build.
The rest of his build has been here for like ever, too. But yeah.
I brought some subs back from Sundown when I came.
Jeremy is a car audio hoarder.
They're all sitting down here too.
Yeah, but I want him to finish one. I want to hear something.
He is a hoarder of car audio.
Yeah.
He will have it all, own it all, but
do y'all know? Every time we talk about this hoarding of car audio, I have to bring up Brad Newsom's name. Do y'all know him?
Yes.
Brad Newsom.
Yes.
That guy has more audio than most dealerships you see. He's got way more. It ain't even close. Oh my God, y'all. I should ask him if I could play that video when I walk through his little room. And I say little room. It's stacked floor to ceiling, many levels deep, brand new old school equipment.
Yeah. There's a guy around here, Mike Knopp. I might be pronouncing his last name completely wrong, but basically the same thing. Like he has I think he has 2 brand new war horses. He's got some old JBL stuff. Just
look, man, those war horses were the bomb, man. They were the bomb. They were efficient and they put out some power.
Yep. That push-pull thing though. Threw a lot of people off.
You got to hook it up right, and there's got a little noise at a certain point, but
it's got noise all over the place.
But if you want that power, It's there and it's efficient, but it's not really an amplifier like we think of as an amplifier. But
No.
But
Well, yeah, for sure. I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on tonight with us. Very
No worries.
appreciative.
I probably have about 30 angry people in my inbox, but I'll get to them some point.
Probably so. Yeah, do that tomorrow.
We'd like to have you back on again, maybe.
Anytime you get ready. Anytime
sure.
you get ready.
Next time I'll try to drag Drew with me, and him and I can just make fun of each other for 2 hours. That'll work.
Yeah,
you guys can just sit back and relax, and we'll just take over.
Yeah, that's cool. We like it that way. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we've had Drew on here a couple times, I think.
Yeah,
Drew's
been a while.
It's been a while. A good dude.
Yeah. Drew's a good friend of mine, so I definitely appreciate him.
He's not very funny. He's not as funny as I am, but I'll be the humor, and he'll talk about like strongman shit.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Well, all righty, sir. Well, we appreciate you, and come back anytime you like.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
All right. See you soon. Bye-bye. All righty. And for the rest of you, it's time to eat, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you eaten yet, Jamie?
No.
Yeah, I think I'm fixing to cook some spaghetti, man. Them noodles, they're gonna jump at me if I don't get it done quick.
Right.
I'm hungry. All right, y'all. Look, thank you guys for tuning in. We had such a blast up in South Carolina this past weekend. We didn't get to talk too much about it, even though it was a very exciting show. It was exciting for me anyway. And so this weekend, Jimmy, you don't have anything, do you? I think Jordan is in Crestview at Rob Collar's place. They're doing a Toys for Tots show. And then Jake Luke is going to be doing a show in the first one in the area, which is also kind of exciting, is in just south of Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is just kind of a suburb of Memphis. And then let's see, that's it. I think Dan, Jimmy, Chet, Robert's got one this weekend also. Matter of fact, Robert, I'm bringing you a tent, either like in a little bit or the day after in a bit. So, but Robert's got a show down there. It's also a toy drive of some type. I'm not real sure exactly, but so we got a couple shows happening, but some of us taking time off, but half of us ain't, I guess. Right?
Me, I'm taking.
When's yours? The following weekend?
December 11th.
And that's where's that?
It's up here in Kansas City, Kansas, at the old Loud and Clear Audio show, or Loud and Clear Audio on State Avenue.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We also have this Hammond show. Jordan's going to be, I think that's the weekend after next. Got a show in Hammond. That's usually a pretty big show. And for you guys in Lafayette, I reached out to Brett to schedule some Lafayette shows for the rest of the year. We got the UAF shows I got scheduled for the rest of the year. I'll be populating them pretty soon. And then I called Brandon Buck, and we scheduled his shows for the rest of the year, next year, that is. So that'll be 30 more events. And that's just right here in this area. So Jimmy and Dan and Chet's going to get to work.
I've got plenty on them. I just need to start scheduling them. So
yeah. And so, but Chet said he's going to kick up after the first of the year. Robert's, we'll have plenty of shows for you guys, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We had 107 this year, the best I can find. And also for those of you that are curious, we picked up about 37%. I think it's about 37% number of actual runs this year over last year. So that's pretty cool. So we're growing, right?
I still have the record for the biggest show.
What is it? 82?
82
85.
Entries. 82 entries. Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's cool. We need you to just have those all the time. We need to shoot for 100. But actually, didn't we do better than that at the finals? Of course, it was the finals, but
I didn't count it, so I don't know. If we count both of ours together, I would say yes.
We had 100, over 100 in the finals. Jordan did 2 shows. He did his shows the same day. That one day we ran over 100, there in Loosedale, Mississippi.
Yeah, well,
That was
I
in
did
that was finals
then-
and right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Next week. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.